So let's jump right in. We often think that because we're smart in our careers, that we're automatically smart with our money. But is that really true? What if there's a gap? Today, we're going to break down a framework to help turn that financial confusion into a plan that's actually clear and something you can act on.
You see this quote? It really hits the nail on the head. It's this strange paradox, isn't it? We see highly intelligent, really successful people making some pretty basic financial mistakes. And look, it's not about a lack of intelligence, not at all. It's usually about not having a clear framework to follow, and that's exactly what we're here to build today.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with that smart person's paradox. Then we'll get a little philosophical and figure out what money really means to you. From there, we'll build your financial plan from the ground up and wrap up with the single most important thing, the first step you can take right away.
Okay, so first up, this idea of the smart person's paradox. It's this tendency for really bright people to fall into some very predictable financial traps. And you have to ask, why does that happen? Well, let's break down some of the most common ones. Do any of these sound familiar? First, there's lifestyle inflation. You get a raise, and somehow your expenses magically rise to meet it, right? High incomes often mean even higher expenses and big loan payments, and suddenly you're in a cash crunch. Second, there's the classic planning fallacy. We'll spend weeks planning a vacation down to the hour, but for our entire financial future, we kind of just say, I'll get to it later. And third, we get this tunnel vision with taxes, focusing on saving a little bit right now, even if it costs us way more in the long run.
So before we even start talking about investments or insurance or any of that stuff, we have to take a big step back. Because real financial planning, it doesn't start with spreadsheets. It starts with your values. It really all begins with one simple, but honestly profound question.
Now, really, take a second. What's your answer to that? There's this great story about a client who was asked this and was just stumped, totally silent for 5 minutes. It's a question that cuts through all the noise and gets right to your why. And the answer? It's going to be different for every single one of us. For a lot of people, the answer is just security. It's that deep down feeling of knowing that no matter what life throws at you, a job loss, an illness, your family's going to be okay. It's the foundation, that peace of mind. For others, it's all about freedom. The freedom to pick a career you love, not just one that pays the bills. The freedom to travel, to walk away from a bad situation. It's about having options and being the one who calls the shots in your own life.
And for some, what money really represents is the power to help other people. The source we looked at mentions a dentist who had a tough childhood financially, and now she uses her success to sponsor kids' education. For her, money is a tool for making a real difference in the world.
Okay, so once you figure out your why, then you can start building your how. And this brings us to a super useful framework, the financial health pyramid. And just like any solid building, you gotta start from the ground up. So, the very first step is like a financial checkup. You need to know your vitals. And it all boils down to these two key documents. First, you've got your cash flow statement. This is just tracking what's coming in and what's going out. It answers the simple question, where is my money going? And second, your net worth statement. That's a snapshot in time of what you own versus what you owe. It answers, where do I stand today? That's it. Together, they give you a map and that little "you are here" pin.
All right, let's move up to the next layer of the pyramid. Once you know where you stand, the very next step is to protect it. This level is all about building a financial fortress to withstand the unexpected storms that life inevitably throws our way.
So the cornerstone of this fortress is your safety net. The playbook is pretty clear. You want to keep about 2 months' worth of your personal expenses in a savings account where you can get it immediately. Then, on top of that, you build up another 4 to 10 months' worth in things that are still safe and easy to access, like liquid funds or fixed deposits. Now, this money isn't for growth, okay? This is your chaos insurance.
And beyond that emergency fund, we get to what is arguably one of the most critical calculations you will ever make. This is a big one, and it's an area where so many smart people are dangerously underinsured. See, the right question isn't how much can I afford to pay every month? The real question is, how much does my family actually need if I'm not here?
So how in the world do you get to a real number? Well, this needs analysis method you see on the screen, this is the gold standard. It sounds complicated, but the logic is pretty simple. You basically figure out two big things. First, what are the huge one-time costs your family would have to deal with, like paying off a mortgage? That's step one. Then second, what's the yearly income gap they'd have without you? You figure out that shortfall, multiply it by how many years they'd need support, and then you just add back those big one-time costs. It turns a wild guess into a concrete, reliable number. It's a real plan, not just a random policy.
Okay, the foundation is secure, the fortress is built, and now we get to climb to the top of the pyramid, growing your wealth with purpose. This is where we shift from playing defense to playing offense, making your money start to work for you.
If you've ever needed a reason not to put things off, just look at this number. Seriously, that is the cold, hard financial cost of waiting just one single year to start investing. Over the long haul, that 1 year of delay costs you almost 14 lakh rupees. That is staggering. This isn't just a number. It's proof that when it comes to investing, time is your most valuable asset. It's even more valuable than the money itself.
So how do you actually grow your wealth in a smart way? The key is something called asset allocation. Think of it like a balanced diet for your money. You don't just eat one thing, right? Same here. You don't put everything in one high-risk basket. You spread it out. You see this sample mix? It has growth engines like equity, stabilizers like debt, and even hedges like gold. The whole point is to manage risk so that if one part of the market has a bad year, it doesn't sink your entire ship. Of course, your personal mix has to be tailored to you, your goals, and your timeline.
So, we've walked through the whole framework, the paradox, finding your purpose, and building the pyramid. But honestly, none of that matters without this final, most important piece, actually moving from just knowing what to do to doing it.
So, let's just boil it all down to 3 key mantras. First, build the base of your pyramid before you even think about the fancy stuff at the top. Get that foundation solid. Second, know yourself. Are you the kind of person who panics when the market dips, or do you chase after every hot new trend? Understanding your own biases is absolutely crucial. And third, and this is the big one, action is what turns a plan into a reality.
And that brings us right to this final crucial point, which this quote just captures perfectly. Having all this knowledge we talked about today, well, that's just potential power. The real change, the real progress happens when you apply it, when you turn information into action. So that's where we'll leave it. You have the framework now, from the big picture philosophy down to the practical steps. The only question left is the one right there on the screen. What is the one single action you're going to take today to start making all of this real for you?